Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to pick up right where we left off on the Snowrunner modding tutorial. This is now part 2, and if you remember from part 1, we imported our model, and we scaled it correctly, and we put it at proper world origin position. So, actually I just realized this should actually be moved back slightly. I would put the back of the cab here along the z-axis, so do this, lock it to X, and right there. And now it's good. Now at the same time, we do have, oops, that's something I should be doing. Where is the statistics? I'm not used to having that. There we are. So this is something that hasn't really been touched on too much, and that is polygon count. What is a polygon? A polygon is, simply put, we'll switch to edit mode here. A polygon is the square or triangle or even circle that makes up your model. A vertex is this single dot. The polygon is the shape it makes, whether it's a square, triangle, rhombus, it makes no difference. And the edges are self-explanatory. They're this piece right here. So now we'll switch back, and a face actually is this. So that's now you know what these numbers here all mean. Now, Snowrunner can't have more than 65,000 polygons per part. So that means this model as it sits is far too big to go into Snowrunner right now. So we have to do some minor work to it to prepare it before we go into the rigging process. So since it's one piece, we can either go through and manually remove pieces, which obviously nobody wants to do that. So there is a much faster way. You flip to edit mode as I've done here, select everything. Also, if you would like to know the keys I'm hitting as I'm going over this, follow along here in the lower left, and you'll see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Now, make sure everything is selected, as you can see I've done. Come up here to mesh, and then you click, I always lose it, separate by loose parts. This will take a minute depending on the size of the model and on the capabilities of your PC. But basically what it's doing is it's automatically going through and finding all the loose parts of the model and separating them. So it's no longer one big piece. The downside to this is it can sometimes break down even small nuts and bolts. So, for example, this little clump right here under the cursor, I believe is a bolt. I could be wrong. And it's probably going to separate that and put it into a little group all its own. There will be some manual cleanup that you'll have to do after it's done with this, but it's certainly far better than going over the entire model by hand and separating loose pieces. Apparently this is going to take a while even on my PC. There we go. And it's that is bothersome. This is exactly what I meant it was going to go through and do. So instead of having one big truck piece, and as you can see, my PC is lagging because instead of having just like the truck bed, the hood, and a few other parts, we now have 15,000 separate objects. So, fortunately, since we're not going to spend the rest of our lives going through and picking all of these, because right now, when I just clicked here, it's going to load. That's now a separate object. So, Control Z, this is the undo button if you're familiar with Word documents or any other problems like this. Press Control Z and it automatically undoes everything. Now we're back to this portion here. So I did slightly jump ahead of myself here. And what we have here first, and what I always usually do with any model I get, is I come up to Mesh, I go down to Clean Up, and I press Merge by Distance. And what this does is it merges, as you can see, it deleted 94,045 polygons. And this is basically just little vertexes right here that are overlapping and on top of each other. Now we may try again to separate. Actually, for the purpose of showing you guys what can happen, I will separate it all again just to see what it will do. Because sometimes if all the vertexes are closed, it may not... Okay, that's far more doable, but I noticed it missed something. So now we'll go to separate by loose parts. Yeah. Well, it looks like we'll have to manually separate our parts instead. Which, it may sound like an awful lot, but I still don't feel like going through and selecting 1,000 different parts. So, in that event, we'll go through here and first of all, we'll take these tires. So press L, press L, and then press delete. The reason for this is because the tires are handled in an entirely different Blender file than the main truck. So we don't need them, and since those tires were basically just placeholders on the model and have no visible tread to them, we're just going to eliminate them entirely. Now, the other thing you'll want to do, and I probably should have shown this earlier, is come back up to, is it faces? Yes, it is. This will cut down on the number of polygons in your model dramatically. As you can see, I'll position this up here and watch over here as I press tries to quads. Our count is reduced dramatically. So what that does is it converts triangles. I'll zoom in here where they were particularly bad on the wheel. Press Ctrl Z. It basically turns all these triangles into squares. Which, again, when it comes to the game, and any game really, the engine prefers reading the model in quads instead of in tries. And again, I think I'll probably end the video here, again, in the interest of trying to keep it short. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.